Let's talk about it.
Hey, there we are. How's it going, guys?
How is
How
it
are
going,
you?
everybody? How is everybody doing?
It's already busy. Jen, how you doing? Nikki, how you doing? Francine, how you doing? Judy, Mort, how's it going, guys? Good to see you all out here. We appreciate it.
Yes, welcome. I'm sorry if my screen is bad. I don't know what's going on with my internet, everybody. I don't know. It's, Richard and I were trying to figure it out. I don't understand. It is what it is. I can't change it. I'm sorry.
Hey, Aaron. You know, it's you guys have gone through a lot up there, so it may take them a while to get their shit together, so to speak. You never know. Because typically
Who
your
knows?
quality of video feedback and all that is usually really, really strong. So I mean, I'm just putting it on the fact that maybe they're just kind of spreading themselves a little thin. Maybe
I
there's a challenge for getting everybody back where they were.
don't know. It's new reality, I guess. I just have to embrace it. Although, it doesn't take my frustration away.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
So
It'll be okay.
how
We'll
has
figure it
your
out.
week been? How has your week been? What's going on with you?
Between work, babysitting grandchild, hanging out with friends, and
Mm-hmm.
investigating.
Yeah.
Been very busy. We did an investigation last night with the team, kind of like a shakedown type investigation of the fort. I did a
Mm-hmm.
short live there on Facebook yesterday, and my God, that place did not disappoint. It was lit from the first building to the seventh building.
I'm
Lit.
envious. I'm envious.
Within the first half an hour in the first building, I think I counted 13 EVPs.
What?
Just nonstop. We caught shadow figures. We had equipment go off for motion sensors. It was just crazy, absolutely crazy. I cannot wait to go back for our event on July 16th, and we've got a lot of people coming. We've almost sold out of those tickets, so that's good. But
Good.
even the church was extremely active.
Wow.
Extremely active. Like
So,
we got EVPs telling us who Father Patrick is. That was there.
mhm.
Even gave us his name. So the church is in the wrong place. I mean, it was just insane. Literally insane.
That's amazing. I'm happy for
Uh,
you.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy. That's
It is a
great.
place that we're doing the event July 16th to kind of give back to the city
Mm-hmm.
that runs the park, the fort, who's rebuilt it. The proceeds are going back to them to continue to rebuild
Good.
and continue to maintain the building. So yeah, it's a worthy
Good.
cause for us.
And
Hey, Meg.
absolutely, that's the best part. The best part is that I find the best part is the fact that not only can people get an experience, but they can also give back, and it's not just capital. It's the fact of the matter that these people are able to rebuild, to maintain, to keep all this stuff. That's what you want. That's fantastic. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the city has done such a great job managing the buildings and the property. They could use whatever help they can get. I know they have plenty more things planned for the property, and they're really so excited about having the people out there for this investigation coming up. And I think we're going to actually probably get into a few more investigations other than one. They seem to be really happy with how things are going.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Mort, you
Good.
said, did I
This is
record the
great.
event? No, we did not. We just did a Facebook Live. we were so busy, I didn't have time to set up. I didn't have a camera person to set up, or I should have had a camera person to set up and film, but I didn't. We just got so hammered the minute we walked on property. It was just really, really crazy. But a great time. I mean, there was a ton of evidence, a ton.
That's so great. I can't wait to be able to hear about it. Like, just to hear the evidence. One day we're going to do a show. We'll be able to bring that stuff up, right? We'll talk about that and bring some of the evidence to that, because you managed some really great stuff. So this is good. This is good.
I had thought actually about going live and bringing you in, but I know you've been handling family, so you really have been pretty busy.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to interfere, but I like being able to bring you in. So you can kind of get a run of the grounds as well, and even though you're on the other side of the frozen tundra, or Canada as it's called, Great White North. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy the ability that you've got with us to be able to remotely view the property and enjoy it too. It is to me, it's an amazing place.
That's
totally
great.
Amazing place. Yeah.
Amazing. This is good. So guys, welcome. So many people are in the chat rooms. As you can see, everybody, those of you that are just tapping in, I'm having some technical difficulties beyond my control. Cannot control the internet, unfortunately. Would love to, but can't. So if you're seeing me and I'm freezing, I can't help it. We are aware of it. As you can see, I'm looking at multiple screens. I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying to keep up with comments like Richard. But yeah, so hey, hi Courtney, Penny, Joanne, Mort, oh my God, Tara, Nikki, Valerie, Michelle, Carlotta, Mario, Meg, Aaron. God, there's so many people in the chat room.
Yep.
Who else? Francine, Brenda, Jen, Judy. Am I missing anybody? If I'm missing anybody, I'm sorry, but how's it going, everybody?
And you without your mirror. You remember your little handheld mirror? We talked about that back in the day. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Over 2 years ago?
Yep.
Oh,
yes.
God. Hey, Kelly, how's it going? Paranormal party time. Yeah, you're right, Aaron. It's, hey, Irene. It has been, I'm dragging ass. I got to tell you, I'm dragging ass.
I believe you. I believe you. Well, yeah. We'll be able to do it. We'll be able to do it slowly. So, guys, please bear with us. Both of us have got a lot going on in our lives. We're very busy. So we're here. We love you. We want to be here. But it's very busy. Very, very busy. So please try to keep up with us.
If we didn't love you guys and didn't want to be here, I've got a pillow that's calling my name.
True story. True story. Yeah, true story.
Thank you.
So what are we talking about this week, Richard?
Talk about this week? Good God.
Yeah, what's this episode? What are we talking about?
You know, isn't it ironic? You know, how things happen. Isn't it ironic? Isn't it romantic? Anyway, yeah, isn't it ironic how things happen, how people happen to find each other, how things just kind of happen to slip into place? You know, I think that's what we're talking about tonight. Why do things happen the way they happen? Why do people meet arbitrarily, meet randomly, and feel like they belong? I've got a team now that is so tight-knit. Met each other, instantaneous energy match. It was incredible. You gotta wonder, right, guys? You gotta wonder how, why? I mean, what made it happen, right? So that's tonight's what we're going to talk about: the effect, cause and effect. If there is a cause, you can put a label on, and the effect is X. You get to have incredible friendships, relationships, working relationships with people. And there's a reason why it happens. We just got to figure it out. And then I think the biggest thing is we just have to let it be. So for me, yeah, everything happens. Brenda says everything happens for a reason. It does. It does. You meet people for a reason. You know, Katie and I met, God, 5 years ago. She's having a lot of internet trouble, guys. Katie and I met over 5 years ago, and yeah, the connection was instantaneous. Instantaneous. It was kind of like it was kind of like somebody had said, "Hey, over there, these two, they know each other. Let's go ahead and go there, and put them together." Yeah, that's it. And then from that, you get a thing like "Let's talk about it," where people just get together randomly that are professionals in their field who have never physically met. Understand that Katie and I have never physically met, ever. We've talked on the phone. We've talked on here. She's visited my show prior to her being a co-host, but we have never, ever physically met. But I feel to her similarly as if she were a sister of mine, like family. How does that happen? How do you meet somebody and instantaneously there's that connection of energy that you guys just everything becomes great. Everything becomes the way it should. I think that honestly, hey, there she is. See if we can keep her for a while now.
I don't know what happened, everybody. I don't know what happened. I apologize.
She's tired of me. She just wants to go away. No, I hope not.
I promise you.
Yeah, you're just having a rough time. You know, it's funny we mentioned it because then Carlotta says maybe from another life people are like that because maybe from another life. Maybe. We all, I think, to a point, believe there is some familiarity in energies in people in past lives that draw them close again. And, you know, like I say, Katie's like a sister to me. I'd take a bullet for her ass in a heartbeat. It's not anything to even question. Easy. But it's true. She's like a family to me. And we've never again physically met. We've never met. Never met. It's just been that kind of connection to where we know more about each other than probably anybody else knows about each other on the web. We know a lot. But it's that comfort level that comes with getting to know somebody or knowing somebody and having that instantaneous connection. Exactly. I met a young kid 5 years ago when I was filming our show. He was brought on and hired on as a production assistant. I met the kid instantaneously. Thought the kid was the best thing since sliced white bread. I had a rapport with him. He had a rapport with me. And 5 years later, he's now a member of my team. Essentially, one of my lead investigators. Hey, 5 years ago, I didn't know who this kid was. And that's just the way it goes. It's all, to me, it's all part of a grand plan. And I'm not going to get preachy, but I don't think the grand plan, I'm saying that because I'm thinking the grand plan isn't essentially just God. I think there's a part of that goes along with it, but I think the universe is saying these two right here need to be together. And I think that that's what we get out of it. You know, it's kind of like when you meet somebody and you get that feeling as well on the opposite end of it of, oh my God, I want nothing to do with this person. I want nothing to do with them. And that's what you get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, you get it either way. I think it's just a matter of when. You know, Joanne says that, yeah, I feel a kinship. Yep. Yeah. And Ken, what's it? Yep, lost her again. You know, Jerry, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Jen, I gotta tell you, it is a weird world. Weird world. You know, Jen said, I'm still trying to find that connection with people. I feel that the universe is trying to help me get rid of the toxic people in my life at the moment. Agreed. I think that the toxicity of people, after a while, the universe tries to blend it out, but it really, you've got to rely on yourself to be able to do most of that. And you have to listen to your gut. You have to listen to your feeling, um, as much as anything else. You've got to be able to sit back and go, that doesn't feel right, and then go with it. You got to go with it. Um, and that's why when we talk about, hey, Kat, how's it going? That's why when we talk about it, oh, okay, Nikki, you got storms rolling through. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's going to be in and out tonight. She's having some internet issues. Um, okay, so then Robin said, I believe that. Hubby and I are like that. We went into a room separate, and on the other, and another psychic told me I should be with that man over there. He is your soulmate. I said, I know, I married him. That's funny. Yeah, the funny thing about I think psychic and metaphysical connections, when people get guidance from, um, from the other side saying, hey, this is a good connection, and it's not really it doesn't really have a timeline on it. I don't think there's ever really a timeline, because time has no basis in the metaphysical world. Time has nothing to do with it. So, I think we have to look at that and say it's the moment when it's the right moment. Yeah. I have been in this business 26 years. I've done 3 different TV shows. I've done my own podcast for 5.5 years. And the one thing I will tell you, I've been an investigator for 26. I've run 3 teams. So the one thing I will tell you is, first of all, if you plan on running a team, God bless you. It's a lot harder than it looks. But what I will tell you is, take that energy connection to heart. To heart. Because if you go out and you try to bring someone in, um, and try to force almost them to work with a team, if it isn't gelling and jiving, guys, it isn't meant to be. It just isn't meant to be. And you have to look at that as, there's a reason for that. And then, these people leave you and they go somewhere else, and eventually maybe their career in the paranormal even fails because they couldn't find the right home. That's irony. That's ironic. I have had many people on and off my team. I have had many people over the years work on my shows with me. Not all of them were great combinations. Um, some were a little bit forced due to a situation. If you've ever been on a television show, you'll understand what I'm saying. They kind of force that relationship because it looks good to them, it seems good to them, but it's not really the way it's going to work out. So you have to really take in the heart what that means. If you're being told, is she back? Maybe. Hi.
Maybe.
How you doing? Welcome to the show, Katie.
Thank you. Thanks. So fun. Great. Barrel of laughs.
All right. So Jerry Swope says, Katie and Richard, when will you two be coming to the 1912 historical Hoover House? We're waiting for you.
Oh, do I ever? Let me tell you something, Jerry, before I get cut off. This is my bucket list. James, Dave, all of them. I cannot wait to get down there. So, Richard will bring me at some point. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, everything is a matter of time and freedom. Right now, a lot of countries don't have freedom if there are people like that. You guys are still locked out, right? In Canada? You guys can't go out of the country and come back?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, well, I think we almost had you. Yeah, Nikki, I think you're right. Nikki says maybe there's a combined connection, birth natural and spiritual. Yeah, I think there is some connection there somewhat, but every being is an energy being, right? The consciousness of a person is energy. The way you move things is energy. So the connection at birth might be blood, but I don't think it's as strong as a metaphysical connection.
No.
I really don't. I mean, you can get two people, again, like Katie and I, who have never met, that have a very strong bond, but again, have never met, we're not related. So, I think the metaphysical connection, I think everyone operates, and it's just my thought, I think everyone operates in a certain algorithm. And I think when that algorithm matches with another person's algorithm, I think that is actually what connects the two people together.
Yeah.
And that is just like an imprint blueprint of the connection between people. Are they on the same page? Do they have the same algorithm? Is it the same ideal? Yeah. And when it is, it doesn't matter how long you've known them, it just becomes instantaneous, I think. At least that's been my experience.
No, absolutely. I agree. I totally agree. I think that there's a 6 degree of separation. And for those of you that don't know, you've probably heard the term, but 6 degrees of separation means that there's within 6 people, somebody knows somebody. Within six transitions of a relationship, there's, you know somebody from somebody. But I believe that we also reincarnate in groups. I believe that we come back into, the transition coming back in, and it kind of brings a reunion because we have soul contracts. Therefore, we may not consciously know each other, but subconsciously, in terms of spiritually, we've been sent back together for different learning lessons on different, avenues in space and time. I think that we get to choose that before we come to this life, before the incarnation happens. So Richard and I have already acknowledged that we've known each other in a past life. We know that we acknowledge it. We both felt that past life connection. And I have friends all over the world that it's the same thing. I have friends that don't even speak my language. It's not their first language that I'm able to kind of connect with. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. We kind of get stuck in a mind frame that, in the physical 3D world, we're supposed to only know the person standing in front of us, but energy knows energy. That gut feeling, it knows. The universal consciousness comes in and out, and we know each other. And so your soul recognizes another person's soul. I think that there's a lot of words that are thrown out there, a lot. I think that soulmate, I think twin flame, I think, I think karmic. I mean, there's many words that we can use for them. Divine union. I think that sometimes they're overused, but I think that they do mean something. And I truly feel that people are brought together for a reason, whether it be for life as a soulmate or a twin flame, or if it's for a learning lesson. There was a karmic, or there was a karma relationship that had ensued in order for you to learn your learning lesson. So I don't feel that anything's coincidence. I just don't.
No, I don't either. Nikki says when we find ourselves connected randomly, perhaps it's not so random. Exactly our point. Maybe it's not random.
Yeah, there's no such thing as random. Exactly.
Yeah, forced to find a way to connect when the frequency is tuned in. Exactly. That's something, again, folks, we have to really try to put together. This stuff you see here, this is a shell. Okay? It's everything that makes me who I am is what you're getting connected to. It has nothing to do with, how gorgeous I am, because, I know I am. Okay?
What can I say?
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. But anyway, it's the being, the energy being inside of me, the energy in me is what makes me, not the shell.
Right.
So we have to realize that. You can be attracted to beauty, you can be attracted to physique, but when you match up with that mental, metaphysical connection, man, that's unbeatable. That
Absolutely.
is beatable. You just can't surpass how good a connection that is.
No,
It
agree.
doesn't matter. I mean, it could be Beauty and the Beast, and in some situations it is. Okay, it is. But when you're working with someone, like I said, in my team, I would take a bullet for anybody on my team. That's how close
Mhm.
we are. That is how tight we are. Everybody would, because we care that much about each other. We are just like family, one big blended crazy. Sometimes we put the fun in dysfunctional, but it's just one of those kind of things where we got each other's backs. We know each other, and we know how to handle and watch and pick, and we can almost finish each other's sentences. Is that crazy?
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I could look at one of my team people and just look at him, and like Devin, for example, or our son, look at him and he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Is he up? I
That's
go get him. Okay, those are the kind of connections you really need. I
Yep.
would never get with somebody and put them on a team for me that did not have the connection. And I've had a lot of people that have written up teams and started teams in the past, back when I had the group called the Paranormal Mafia, when we were actually mentoring teams back when. And I had a lot of people who were starting teams ask me, hey, how do I know if this person's a good matchup energy wise for the team? You know what? Go break bread together. Go
Yeah.
sit down at a restaurant and break bread together. If that gets through that without somebody having cross words or misunderstood placement of words, you're probably not off to a bad start. But I've come to find that when people have a very social setting, the true them comes out.
Mhm.
You can put people in a position of, hey, go grab that K2 meter and go over there and do a baseline sweep for me over in that section of the building. They're going to do it. That's separating them from you. But when you put people together in front of a table and now they have to be socialized together, personalities make a big difference.
Absolutely.
You have to take a look at that as, does it gel? Does it jive? Does it make sense? If not, we're done. We're done.
Yeah. I think to even get deeper into the connection, and Richard, the fact that you put up, isn't it ironic? I think is such a wonderful phrase, because it seems that life kind of happens like that. So much becomes ironic. You expect one thing and you get the other. You get the, kind of polar opposite, but also the synchronicities in life and the way that the universe makes things easy for you when it's meant to be. I think as humans, we'll say the human aspect of us doesn't take that into consideration, doesn't think about it enough, doesn't have that in their forefront of their consciousness, in the sense that um, when things just flow naturally, you're talking about your team members and you're talking about, I mean, I have a family too. My team members are a family. Like, we've been together through thick and thin for a long time. I've got some pretty good hard, my core teammates. And we just jive. And the fact of the matter is that with the weak link, let's put it that way, the people that chose not to stay or were maybe only perhaps meant to be in the team or in our lives for a short period of time, have moved on their way, moved on their way. They're moved on to bigger and better things. And we don't take that into consideration. Not everybody is supposed to be in our life forever. Some people are only supposed to be in our lives for a very short period of time, whether it be teaching us a lesson for an hour, for 5 minutes, for 2 minutes, or for 50 years. And we don't think about it that way. Oftentimes, when a breakup occurs, or a fight occurs, or you simply grow out of that individual, you go your separate ways. We kind of question it. We don't understand why it happens, and sometimes that's all it's meant to be. They're just meant to come into your life to shake you up, to make you think, make you self-reflect, and kind of grow as an individual, as a spirit. So these synchronicities and things that happen, it's for a reason. To me, everything has divine timing. Everything happens when it's supposed to. And I have a motto: if it's not meant to be, it's not to be. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. In other words, like, everything is kind of meant to happen the way it's supposed to happen, whether you like it or not.
No, exactly. And there's a lot of times you have to realize you can't do anything to stop how it's going to the outcome.
Right.
You can't.
And that is something that I am, my ego 5 years ago would not allow me to say. My ego would have said, no, I'm not controlling, or I'm not trying to push things and push my views, even 2 years ago, push the way I think it should happen, or how I feel. I have this image in my mind and I feel like it should go this way. And I've learned through spirits, I've learned through my readings, I've learned through paranormal investigating, that it doesn't matter how hard you may want to shove something into a certain space. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. You have to allow the progression to happen slowly. And we sit back and when you are self-reflecting, you kind of go, if I had just relaxed a little bit, it would have flowed that way anyway, instead of kind of pushing it to make it happen.
Yeah, and that's the forced, that's the forced energy that it just doesn't work out. I know when I started running my teams years ago, I kind of like you would be, I want it this way, I want it that way. And it got to a point where if the energies are right, if the people are right, that it'll flow the way it's going to flow anyway. It'll flow the way you want it to flow.
Right.
And you won't have to be a dictator. And I am. I'm a control freak. Don't get me wrong. Anybody in my team will tell you I am a control freak. I want things done a certain way. I want things done in the manner that I know will gather the most evidence. And for the most part, my team is very, very supportive of my personality on things. But
so they're patient.
Yeah, they're very patient. But if it comes down to one of us goes down, boy, all of us are together like a band of family members. We get that person up, we get them outside, we get them a drink. You might get them a Coke if they go into shock. You get them a Coke, you give them a bottle of water, feed them something, get them out in the cool air, get them away from the activity. Everybody will do that. Everybody will get each other's back. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It'll just happen that way. Now, Nikki said, would you feel that certain environments can enhance connections, something that can literally set things in motion and lead to a lifelong connection?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I look at things from a cosmic standpoint sometimes. So I will step out of the present moment. I'll step out of the present room. I'll step out of the present environment. I'll step out and I'll try to look at it from a worldly perspective. And I giggle. I giggle when people haven't caught on to the synchronicities yet, or the messages that are being sent from the other side. The way that, and we talked about this in a past episode, where they leave little signs and synchronicities for us to catch on, or sometimes they will put it right in front of us and we're just too oblivious to notice it. But I am somebody who I don't necessarily look for these things, but I witness them and I see them every day doing what I do, and I giggle at it, because absolutely everything is put in your path for a reason, and you may not appreciate it, understand it, or even be aware of it, but it's there. It's absolutely there. And sometimes it comes down to, and we'll use paranormal as an example. I don't think if we hadn't been in paranormal, you and I would have met. I don't know how it would have happened. I don't know, but I'm not saying it wouldn't have happened. There could have been another coincidence or synchronicity that happened that brought us together because we were supposed to. But you being on your path, me being on mine, everything happened for a reason. Think about your present relationships, everybody. Think about who you're with or who you recently broke up with. Why did it happen at that point? Why didn't it happen 5 days before, 5 years before? Because at that point, you probably wouldn't have been able to handle the relationship you're in or out of right now. You were not at that point where you were able to be your highest self, your best self. And so that's when, things move on, and we share each other's time, or we move on from each other, because we're either moving on from something that no longer serves us, or we're supposed to be learning about letting something go, or we're supposed to be hanging on to something. And it's that balance that we find is really hard. So to answer your question, Nikki, absolutely. The right place at the right time is really a true phrase.
Yeah. And this is a unique subject, because I don't really think people cover it very well or at all. People are saying, "Oh, it's just it just happens. Everybody seems to get along." There's reasons why everyone gets along. makes it I've had many friends that pop in and out of my life at different stages and all left a great impression in my life. Yes.
Mhm.
That to me, my opinion, my 2 cents, my trucker 2 cents. My 2 cents simply tells me that they were there for that short period of time for one particular reason.
Mhm.
To me, it's very similar to guides or people you have in your life that are on the other side. They come in to do a job.
Mhm.
If the energy changes or the algorithm changes, whatever you want to call it, if it changes and they're no longer needed, they'll move on.
Mhm.
Friends are the same way. Friends are people, people are energy. And again, they're there for a reason. Some make a great impression, and some tell you still got lessons to learn. But they're all there for life lessons or for, again, to help you out in a situation where it doesn't require them to be there long term.
Perfect.
You
Yeah.
know, they're
And
there for a reason.
sometimes I always say to people that there's a give and take. There's a yin to a yang. You're supposed to be teaching somebody something and they're supposed to be learning something from you. Sometimes the lesson for them is greater than the lesson for you. And a lot of times we are in a me society. Why me? Why did it happen to me? Why this? Why this? No. Sometimes it's not your greatest happiness because you're giving that other person the greatest happiness. And we don't look at it that way. It's hard to look at it from a balanced perspective, but that's the reality. That's the way, I feel that it works. Um, you know, I often refer to relationships like shoes. Okay. Um, you can't, my feet and your feet, Richard, are two different sizes. I can't fit in your shoes and you can't fit in mine. So why would you put yourself in my shoes and vice versa? That's the first one. And the second thing is as we were growing, our feet grew, right? And we had to grow into different size shoes. It did not make those shoes bad. It did not make them unuseful. They just didn't serve us anymore. And so we outgrew those shoes and moved on to newer or bigger shoes. The same thing happens in our life. Sometimes we outgrow these things and they were only in our lives at that specific point. Why would somebody want to take grade 4 100 times instead of growing to the next grade and growing as individuals? And so again, that divine timing that occurs, that learning lesson, sometimes you have to go through the grade a couple times before you catch on. And sometimes it takes multiple people or multiple instances to make you consciously aware of an event. Sometimes a person will come in and you're not catching on. That cycle is happening and happening and happening and happening, and you're just not catching on, baby. Guess what? That person exits your life, a new person comes in or a new event comes in, and the same lesson has to be learned again. I have people all the time say to me, I don't understand why I always seem to get the bad guys. Why do I date the bad people? Why is it the bad people coming into my life? Why do you think? Why? Because there's a lesson you're not learning as a person. And it doesn't just have to do with romantic relationships. It can be work relationships. It can be, we dial it back to paranormal. In a paranormal standpoint, if you're receiving the same things over and over and over again and you're not growing, why do you think that's occurring? It's that simple. It could be down to the fact that you're not looking into things as deeply as you should be. It doesn't have to be romantic or even work related. It can be into the smallest detail of your life.
It's true. That's true. Ellen has a question I want you to tackle.
Sure.
So, could our children be someone we might know from a past life?
Absolutely. Yes. 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 Um, my son is a very, very old soul. In fact, I often think that he's older than I am in spiritually. Um, both my children I have known in past lives. Both my children I knew, and not, I'm going to say many. I can't give a percent, but many, many, many times when we reincarnate, again, we reincarnate in groups, and we reincarnate in terms. They could have been a brother, they could have been a child, they could have been a mother, but they're brought in for that learning perspective. There's many things that my children are sent here to teach me. It's not just because I'm linear in age older than them that they are older that I'm necessarily supposed to teach them things. There's many things that they're supposed to be teaching me. So to answer your question, yes, 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 they are brought in for usually multiple times.
How did I get to be put into high heels? Is what I want to know. Aaron said maybe Richard just doesn't like being seen in high heels. Okay. All right.
Oh, because we're talking about size shoes. So that's awesome. That's awesome, Aaron. But
no, it's not, Aaron. No,
I don't wear high heels anyway, so I would break a leg. I would break a leg, Richard. So you're safe.
Literally, you would break a leg. Not only to coin the pun, but literally, you would break a leg.
Right.
Not good. Not good at all. Cat said not in public, LOL, but he'd rock those heels. No, I wouldn't. Yeah, the thought that Katie would fit in a size 15 wide.
Good God.
Yeah, I could not. That would be watching my daughter trying to wear my shoes. No, no. I don't think that would go over well. It would be fun to watch, though. Yeah. Yeah.
I would do it. If we could raise money for an awareness of some kind for a good deed, I would do it, Richard. I would.
I'm glad you would do it. God, I'm going to be doing it. That's not happening. Not today,
the day we can find a size 15 high heel, I think is the day Richard's going to do it.
I would never put it past this bunch on this show to not find a size 15 high heel. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Don't waste your time or money. This big boy is not wearing high heels. So, no. But yeah, I mean, guys, to me, do you guys have any questions other than what we've already read through about, synchronicity or, the irony of knowing somebody that you don't really know? Do you guys have any questions about that? Because it was question filled till about 5 minutes ago. So fire away, guys. Fire away.
There was a question that I saw up earlier, but I got kicked out. So Catherine Dory said, "Can you love where you live but not vibe with it and find it difficult to succeed?" Absolutely. Okay, great question, Catherine, because it may not be the physical location that you're living in. It could be the feng shui of your property. It could be the energy that's the ambient energy that was there before you came in. So you may have to cleanse. It could be the fact of the matter that it's not that you're not jiving. It's not either you're not open to the preceding energy or that the energy is not open to you. So in other words, maybe it's not the right time. Okay, you might have pushed to get into that place. So for example, let's just use a house for example. You have a house that you love. Okay, there's multiple houses that you love. There's multiple things that you want. Okay, you make some offers on some houses, you're happy about it, and there's one specific one you want, but it's really hard. You can't get the financing. You can't get, there's issues with it. The paperwork didn't go through properly, but you're frustrated. You're determined. You're stubborn. You want this house, and in the end, you get it. Do you remember the old term? Be careful what you wish for. You move into this house, it's your dream house, and everything starts to fall apart. The plumbing starts, the wiring's not good, there's a lien on the property, yada, 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 that you discover. Sometimes the universe is making it harder for you so that you think back and go, should I have really done this? Or maybe I should have taken the other opportunity that seemed so easy too. It's not just physical things. Sometimes it's relationships. If you are chasing somebody, if you are chasing a relationship and you're trying desperately to make it work, whether it be a friendship, a work relationship, or romantic, a lot of times I tell people the law of attraction prevails. When you chase someone, okay, you are putting off an energy that is basically pushing them away. You have to kind of do what's good for you and work on your highest self, being the best you can be for you. When you shift your mind frame, that law of attraction is going to open up because you're feeling attractive to yourself. And the same thing goes with, you're talking about the house. You're talking about living in the wrong place. It's really about shifting things up. You could be in a mind frame that is actually repelling everything rather than attracting. So before you go moving your house or selling your house and saying, you know what, it wasn't meant to be, try and shift your energy focus on how you're receiving and giving energy, and see if that changes first.
Yeah. Francine said, if reincarnation has been going on since the beginning of time, why are there still things to learn?
Because we have a thing called free will, and we are spiritual beings having a human existence. And you have to realize that we are a yin to a yang. So it's not just cut and dry. It's not you grow up, you get old, you get married, you have kids, this, it's not like everything is different, right? You have to remember that we live in different culture sectors. So, I have been a man and I've been a woman. Richard's been a man, he's been a woman. I have been murdered and I have murdered. I have been a soldier and I have been a victim. I have been I could go back and forth to making different scenarios, but you not only are you learning it from one perspective, you're learning it from another. There's an old saying that says that, and I actually posted this on Facebook because I thought it was really great. And it was something to the effect that for those of you that don't feel attractive, we all suffer from self-image. Some people are very confident in their image, and some people suffer. They don't feel confident in how they present. And it stipulated that basically, when you look in the mirror, there's a saying that when you reincarnate into the person that you thought was the most attractive in your life. You reincarnated into the face that you loved and adored. And that's what you wanted the most in the past life, was that other individual. And so therefore you became an image like that person. So remember that when you look in the mirror, that you loved that individual deeply. And it kind of goes that you have to learn the yins and yangs. Sometimes we're born rich, sometimes we're born poor. And I say born in the sense that is our timeline and we have to experience these things. I think it's an infinite question that we're never going to be able to answer, that we're constantly going through. Now, in a past episode, Richard and I talked about guides, and talking about when we're done reincarnating, when we've done learning our learning lessons, we become guides and we guide people. So on the other side, we have jobs and we're learning lessons through that. So don't look at it like we have to just keep coming back. It doesn't work like that. It's not, we're not just keep coming back. We do finish our journeys. We do finish on a physical plane, but we also become guides and do those jobs too.
I mean, there's a lot to learn, guys. And that's kind of the thing I've talked about many times. We've talked about it. Everything we could ever know about the metaphysical fits in a thimble, and the volume is of an ocean. Not to sound crazy about it, but that's the truth. Catherine Dory said, "Is there a time of rest where you just don't meet anyone?" Yes. I would say so too. I think there's reasons why these people come into your lives, why you meet them, and if there's a respite from it. I think it's because I call them your jobs. Your jobs are full. They're full. But yeah, I fully believe there is a rest in between, picking into or picking in people, bringing in people. I think there is definitely a rest in it too. Katie agrees. So,
yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's see what's another one too. And Michael says, if reincarnation actually occurs, would a person come back and remember things about their former life?
Yes, absolutely. Children are amazing. And I've talked about this many times with my son as an example. My son knew his past life at 2.5 years old. He knew his past life, he knew how he died, and he could speak Japanese. Simple as that. Now, he has since forgotten, and a lot of children do, but I was able to document it, and I was able to kind of put that forth. My daughter told me stories as well. Children are really great at things, remembering things, but there are people who remember too. Oftentimes when you have dreams, reoccurring dreams in a different time frame, and they're very vivid. You're getting past life memories. That's what you're getting. Doing a past life regression. I've had a few past life regressions, and they were very successful. I was able to get down to the garb that I wore, to where I lived, to the name of the town, visiting different psychics. As a psychic, I see past lives, and I have taken people back to their gravestones. I've actually taken people back to their gravestones in cemeteries, and we're talking the UK, we're talking Germany, we're talking it's not just necessarily here in my backyard that I'm taking people to. So yes, there are things, but there's also on a cellular level, and we'll get into kind of quantum physics for a minute. On a cellular level, the body remembers, and so even though born into a new body, the cellular growth that happens through the spirit, okay, the body takes that on, and it's a good example for people who have had transplants. A lot of times when people have had a certain transplant from somebody else, they take on the characteristics, or they often start to have some sort of a craving, or they enjoy. There are people who have near-death experiences, and all of a sudden they can play a piano, or they wake up out of a surgery and have an accent. A lot of times, what happens on a cellular level is that energy is kind of shorted out. It comes back into life. You back into kind of your consciousness, and you carry out those things. A lot of times when we have fears of flying, fears of water, fears of a certain death, that's a past life coming through, and it's a subconscious thing, but it is occurring. So, again, you got to question yourself. I really encourage you guys to self-reflect, think about some of the things that were major events in your life or major fears, and ask yourself if it's something present or could it be something past. And when you figure out that it's a past event, that it's a past life thing, it no longer makes you afraid anymore. It no longer kind of makes you worried. And so it's that cellular thing.
Well, Ellen brings up a good point. She says, so when I went through my why me stage when diagnosed with MS, it may have been because I'm supposed to help others learn how to live with their problems. I have had numerous acquaintances say that they don't think they would have kept going with their illness until they met me. Would be nice to think that maybe there is a purpose to the MS other than bad luck.
Absolutely. Yes.
First of all, I think it's very brave of you to continue on helping other people. When you're dealing with a lot yourself, I commend you on that, Ellen. You and I have known each other for years, but I will tell you, I commend you on it.
And you know what? Ellen, you know what the best part about that is that you have the courage to come forward and speak to it publicly, because this gets, a million people can see it, has the potential to see it, millions of people. So that, number one, thank you for your vulnerability. And number two, you've already helped somebody by bringing that up. What you don't realize is what we act upon has already occurred. You have to realize that we are acting in the past in terms of time. It has already been written. It has already been put into a timeline, and therefore you are experiencing what has already happened in the consciousness. And so you have already helped people, and so you should be proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron makes the statement. He says, it is the light people see and go to at death, possibly the same light as a newborn sees, or a newborn exiting the birth canal sees. Maybe you don't actually die, but just begin a new life right away.
Okay, so the light, that's all, it's all conceived, it's all preconceived, pardon the pun, it's all conceived. So I had a really cool spiritual experience a few years back, and it happened to be my grandfather. And my grandfather came to me in a meditation, and he explained how death works. And he explained to me in great detail precisely what happens. He talked about the tunnel, he talked about light, he talked about dark, he talked about that canal, if you want to call it canal. And he said to me, Katie, it's really not a beam of light. What it is a dimensional shift. His words. It's a dimensional shift from one dimension to another. And essentially that shift of energy transfer that's occurring makes it appear like it's a tunnel of light. But there's really no tunnel. There's actually nothingness, and then there's something, which that's how we perceive the light. And it's really a shift. So to say I don't know about birth, how that works, I know that in terms of past lives, people and people who have experienced near-death experiences, there is a generalization that occurs. They do see the tunnel, they do see the light, they do have kind of a falling or a suction feeling that occurs when that happens. But in terms of birth, I've actually had a couple children say to me that they remember being in their mother's womb. Now, how do you validate that? But they're able to talk about things that would not make sense to a child at that age. So who's to say that the consciousness doesn't happen in the womb?
Yeah, we don't know. Trying to see, there was one up here I got. Okay, so Cat Ward said, I've heard some say that when an individual is confused about themselves, it's because they are remembering things from a past life.
Yes. Yes. So I'm going to get flack for this, but I'm just going to say it. People who question their sexuality, people who question their genders, people who question or perhaps maybe gender confused or gender, they identify, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love all makes and models of people. Proudly.
I know you're heading down this road.
A lot of times that's a past life thing. As spiritual entities, we're not male and female, we're spiritual entities. And because we're evolving, and we're evolving spiritually as a collective in the world, we're identifying more and more and more that way, and we're not being stuck in that gender role necessarily. And so it's a really cool thing. It's a positive thing. It's not a negative thing. That's a cool thing. And I find that a lot of people who that are letting the gender terms go, letting those things go, are farther evolved than the people who are stuck judging it. And that's part of the learning lesson we're supposed to be learning, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mario says, I find that I get visions and clear intuitive thoughts when I'm around certain people. When I'm around my son, I get vivid images come to me. Okay, so here's the thing. And for my fiance and I, Lori, it's kind of a running joke. But she has abilities, okay? I'm a psychic medium. When you put those two people together, it's like somebody took a big battery and latched it onto a smaller battery, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're seeing and feeling and getting stuff that you never got before.
Right.
I call it a tag along. So I'm able to transfer some of my energy to her for her to be able to see things better, hear things better, register the dead better, and that happens. That's part of it. I think. I'm going back to my Star Trek days, but I think it could be a collective. If you get a room full of people who are intuitive, psychic mediums, empaths, you get them in a room that is going to be the biggest paranormal generator you're ever going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. And I think you have to understand that. You can take a person who's not really mature enough in their abilities, doesn't really know how to manage them, so to speak. And then you bring another person into their life that has abilities, knows how to manage them, understands what they're about. That person, again, like I said, tag along to the person who's new to this and can open their eyes, so to speak, to a lot of things that they weren't able to do before. So, yeah, I think that people can enhance your abilities if they have abilities of their own. I think that piggyback effect actually works. What do you think about that, Katie?
I agree. I absolutely agree. I think that we work together and we amp each other's up, but I also feel like there's a yang to that, in the sense that there are also people who drain your energy and are exhausting. So it works in both ways. There's that person that balances, and there's empathic projectors, and there's empathic receivers. And so there's some people project energy, and that energy vampire sucks onto that. And there's some people who who receive the energy, and they are therefore the energy vampire. And it's not always a negative thing. Not always. Sometimes people are not cognizant of that. They don't realize they're doing it, and so it's making them consciously aware of what's happening. But yes, when you look at the power of prayer. Okay, the power of prayer is so significant, so powerful, so amazing, and it's been proven that it works. Why do you think that is? Because you have a bunch of people getting together on a collective scale. They're all focusing their energy on one direction, and they're creating, you hear the Ghostbusters, you never cross the streams. They're putting all of their streams together, not crossing them, but they're putting them into one big stream, and they're able to get the job done. And so, when you're all coming together for that common goal, that's what's happening, is you're amping that energy.
Now, Francine says, so is it best to deal with something negative in this life to not have it carry forward and over to the next life? All right, so here comes the trucker answer. You ready for the trucker answer? All right. I'm a big believer in don't dirty your soul before you pass it along. So what I mean by that simply is deal with your stuff. Deal with it before your time is done. There's some phraseology that gets passed on to people that are going on to the other side, called "get your life in order." Okay, that should be something you try to do every day anyway, because we never really are sure when today's the last day, right? So yes, you should deal with it, because I don't believe that a soul should carry over with anything negative on it. I call that a dirty soul. I don't think that's a good idea. Make your peace, find your center, find your balance, make your peace, and then move forward. But yes, sometimes you just got to just deal with it and move on. Right into the next question. Adam Tippler says, why are there times when you meet someone and become friends, but drift apart for a few years and then meet up again and start again? My thought, they just were needed at that time. And then the energy changes again some years down the road, and you need them again. And I'm not talking about need them to help you move, help you, build a garage in your metaphysical life is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in the issues of dealing with metaphysical connection. You needed their metaphysical connection then. Your time, the energy was up. They could move on. They moved on. And now the energy is needed back again. So that's why it happens that way. And there are some people out there, I actually have several. I don't talk to them for years. I mean, life interrupts. And then you meet up with them, it's like you never left them.
Right.
Because that connection stays. So, yeah, but good question, though.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. We've got a lot. Lori says, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm gardening. Whoa.
Hey, Lori, that's good.
9 o'clock at night. Yeah, sun's about gone. Valerie said, my dreaming abilities have gotten so much stronger since being with Dean. I do believe he is a battery for me. I have always been able to do it, but maybe now it's stronger because he's so gifted as well. Yeah.
And I grew up with Dean, and so Dean, I know that you have been spiritual for many years. I'm not trying to censor you out, but I don't question your abilities. I know that you're very sensitive, and Valerie, I know that you're sensitive too. And the fact is that you've come together and you've made that beam bigger, right? You've made that collective bigger. And so it's good. You're going to feed off of each other. Now you may have moments where you feed off of him and he gets drained, and then he feeds off of you and you get drained, or it could be that you're both a powerhouse. It's a yin to a yang and a give and a take. You guys are spiritually connected on a soul level. So you had to go through some trials and tribulations in order to make it work, but you guys are meant, like, to say that you're meant to be and not meant to be, that's kind of a play on words. But you guys, there's more than just a minute learning lesson. You're supposed to be having a lifetime of a lesson together, which is really great. Sometimes it's a minute of a lesson, but because you're so interconnected, it's a good thing. And you are supposed to go through the trials and tribulations. And I don't just mean you, I mean everybody in life through relationships in order to get where you're at. So this is really good. When you are both feeding off of each other and both getting something out of it, and that's any type of relationship, that means that your energy is in alignment, and that is your highest self working in order. When you find that you're fighting, and I mean on a general scale, one person, the spouse is fighting, best friend's fighting, you're kind of not catching what the other one's throwing, it's because you're not in alignment, and that's important. It's time to self-reflect. And Adam, this could be for you as well. When you drift apart and come together, it's because that alignment doesn't necessarily happen. And so you have to have that separation, and then you come back together in union again when you're aligned.
Right. Well, questions are stopped. So
Kat says, is that why we have cases of deja vu? So deja vu, everybody, and I've talked about this before, but deja vu is your higher level of consciousness. It's remembering what you've written for yourself, only you don't realize you've forgotten because you suffer from amnesia. Remember, we're not supposed to remember our past lives. We're not supposed to be focused on them because we'd never learn anything, right? We'd just be, the old adage, if I hadn't known then what I know now, I wouldn't have done it. Well, the whole point is that you're being tested, and you're supposed to see what judgments you can have on a subconscious level. that gut feeling that, we always want it to be a heartfelt gut feeling. You go with your gut, right? So that's what they're putting you in. And that deja vu is that you tapping into that timeline, into that source. Now, remember earlier I had talked about we're already kind of living in the past in the sense that we've conceived it. The notion's gone out into the universe. It's already happening, but we are living it out. So we're a couple beats behind what is actually occurring. That's where the free will happens. And that's where we're able to change our state of consciousness and change our direction in life, right? Forecast. Think of it like the weather forecast. I mean, it could change at any given time depending on the weather, depending on the wind, depending on the temperature, depending on the same thing happens in life. So that deja vu is just us remembering what has already occurred.
Yeah. And deja vu is probably one of the most misconceived, to me, notions there is out there. I think people have to understand you have a glimpses at certain things in your past lives, and glimpses, and that's just a glimpse, in my opinion. So, like I said, sometimes get such a strong sense of deja vu, that ignorant, dizzy. What does that mean? The dizzy part of deja vu, I don't know. I've never had that with deja vu cases before. I'll tell you, off topic, where I get dizzy spells is at portals.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, just kind of putting another example together, I don't think we've talked about too, is locations, for example. All right, let's talk about that for a minute. This location I was at yesterday, I haven't been there in well over 3 years. They had told me last time I was there 3 years ago, no, we're never going to do a public event. That was under previous management. New management walks in, this guy is like all about the paranormal, all into it. He's a big believer. All of a sudden now he wants to have a public event there. Everything is, I think the problem that we have are the answers we get to what we want. We don't have the patience to wait for everything to come into alignment. So what I'm saying is, we love yeses. We love those. They're great. The connections that we get, we don't like no's, right?
Right.
But we also have to deal with the maybes or the wait. And that's something that people just don't understand. The timing might not be right. The energy might not be right. The connection might not be right. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for example, I went from not being able to do an event to this place 3 years ago to now 3 years later, they're talking about doing more than one event possible. And that's all because the connections changed.
Right.
That's the same way it is for a lot of things.
Absolutely.
And I think that you have to, I don't want to get lost too much in the muck and mire of this, but I think you really have to listen to what you're being told about the people you have in your lives. I think you have to listen to that. I think you have to listen to when something says, man, this just doesn't feel right. It might not be right.
Exactly.
But it's the ones you get when you say, man, this feels so good. It's so cool. It just jives so well. It gels so well. Hold on to those. There's a reason why they're gelling. So, just kind of a thing, just a little food for thought. Have you both told your families you would send signs to them that they know that you're okay on the other side? No.
I have.
Yeah, I haven't. My family, outside of my kids and my fiance, they understand the whole paranormal thing. My family, not so much. So for me, it would just be a confusing state for them to know I haven't. Oh,
I've got it all planned out. I'm going to be flicking heads at my funeral. Like, you have no idea. Boop, 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 boop. I'm going to be breakdancing. I'm telling you the things I'm going to do to let them know I am okay. Like, I'm going to do some crazy stuff. I'm a prankster, so it's going to be fun. Let's put it that way. I can't wait. They know. And it's going to, there's no question. They're going to be like, oh, God, it's Katie again. Ugh.
I do have a list of people I'm going to haunt. List. I do. I have an actual list of who I'm going to haunt.
Uh-huh.
And I want to see if it holds true because I want to see these people get a little freaked out. That's do you, Richard? Do your kids have gifts like you? Well, their mother has gifts. My kids are not mine biologically, but they're mine. But being exposed to the paranormal the way they have, because paranormal gifts, metaphysical gifts are genetic, they got handed down. So, one, my eldest daughter is an empath, sincere empath. My middle child is a seer. She actually has the ability to see spirits, scared the crap out of her when she was 11, having a man standing in the middle of her brother's doorway. Yeah. My son is just sensitive to it. On the other side of my fence, my other kids, my eldest child is now becoming a mini Richard, which is kind of scaring his mom a little. Because that would scare most people. But thankfully, she understands it's all for the good. But yeah, my son Devin, he's all in. He is a chip off the old supposed huge block of Richard. Middle son, he's a cop, and cops are already born with into that world of not believing anything they don't see. That is just something that I had to get past when I got out, so I understand it. The youngest son is my youngest son. Unfortunately, he got a T-shirt. I got to explain this because I think it's hilarious. He got a T-shirt today, and he brought his girlfriend to the investigation. Oh, yesterday, he brought his girlfriend to the investigation. So he has been laughingly labeled ghost bait. So he got a T-shirt yesterday that said, "I am ghost bait for the Haunted Travelers." And his girlfriend got a shirt that had the Haunted Travelers logo on it that said, "I'm with Ghost Bait."
That's awesome.
But the challenge I run to is with my son, Logan, is that he is very, very open, too open. And that's a problem. That is a thing. Being too open is a big thing. He also is autistic, so that leaves him a little bit more vulnerable to a point. And I'm going to say that because my other son, Avery, is autistic as well, but also ADHD, again, leaving himself pretty vulnerable to any kind of opportunity from a spirit on the other side to mess with him. It's just one of those kind of things where he's just so open, so oversensitive that I have to really reel him in to how far I will take him or where I will take him. Mm-hmm. I have to be 100% assured that the traffic, as I call it, in the building is benign. Because if it isn't benign, I'm not taking him. Mm-hmm. He's already been a victim on one investigation where he got scratched 3 times and visibly had a team member watch him get knocked down by a shadow figure to the floor. Yeah. So, this is just the one child out of the 6, but he still likes to do it. I just have to be careful where I bring them. So yeah, they all do have some abilities, but it's genetic from their parents. Like with my fiance Lori, the 3 boys, Devin, Caleb, and Logan, they got that from her. And then my 2 girls and my son on the other side, they got that from their mama. It's genetic, but it happens. Yes, long and short of that. Sorry about that. Long and short of that.
That's fantastic.
That is the way it is. Yes, they all have abilities. You love those shirts, Kat. Thank you. We appreciate it. We've got Carmen on my team who makes our shirts for us. Who gets our shirts for us as well. She's open to do whatever. But it's fun to have those. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're already at 1 hour and 15 minutes, Katie.
I know. Time flies.
All right, so Dean Jones says mine were handed down from my mom's side. Yeah, that makes sense. My mom doesn't have any though. Okay, I've seen it skip a generation. But we're talked about a lot of things about spirits and death and such after my dad passed. Something brought her a lot of comfort, which I think is a huge purpose of why people have gifts. That is, here's to me, here's the thing. If you are a person who has abilities and you are not helping people after you learn how to manage them correctly, okay? After you learn how to manage your abilities, if you are not helping people find closure, solitude, if you're not helping people do that, you just need to find a way to kind of curb it on your own, because that's what it's for. It's a gift that is designed to be given away. It is designed to help other people. It is designed to be able to make people understand that their deceased, or their decedent rather, are still with them. Because for a lot of people I've noticed when I've done readings, they are very big and they're very thankful to know that they are still with them. So that's kind of where you run into stuff like that.
And I think it goes down to prediction. So when I give a prediction for something, I don't have a special in with God. I'm not like, yo, bro, like we don't fist pump as I walk by. Everything that I'm given is divine in the sense that it's been cleared with head office and I'm allowed to talk about it. Do you know what I mean? So it's not as though they don't already know it's occurring. If it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen. A lot of times these things are given through me to give to the client so that they're able to maybe make a change or think about something, self-reflect. I leave a lot of my clients with homework. I make them think about things. I make them, if they want to make a choice, they make a choice. It's all of that free will. And so a lot of times when people come for a psychic reading, they have problems, or there's a problem that they have not been able to resolve. There's a conflict. And they've gotten to the point where they have been divinely guided to come to me or to any psychic. And so that's where they're able to get their answers because they asked for that. You have to realize that when you have a problem, if you ask your guides, if you ask the angels, if you ask the collective, you're going to get an answer. The universe never presents something once. It presents it on multiple occasions. It's whether you pick it up or not. And they're going to try and help you. They can't give you the answer. A guide can't give you the answer, but it can guide you. And so it's going to kind of guide you to where you're supposed to be. And it's at that point that you make your free choice what decision you want to make. So to kind of answer that question, you have to, it's all about what you want out of something, what you're thinking about, we talked about numbers and getting synchronicities and getting little signs of when you're on the right path to the wrong path. And it's really simplistic. It's not an epic message. Sometimes it's a penny on the floor or a feather and sometimes it's yes, you're on the right track. And sometimes it's yes, your father is just fine. Right. So you don't have to look for the epic messages. It's just little, but it's there.
Yeah. Now, Adam says, what happens to the people who die that don't believe in the afterlife? Here's the thing. Here's my trucker answer, okay?
I love it when you say that. Here's the thing.
Here's the thing. Here's the trucker answer. If they don't believe in it or they do, it doesn't really matter. It's going to happen, right? I mean, it's energy, transference of energy transfers over. It doesn't matter you believe it or not. Now, what it does do is that if you are a believer in the paranormal, you're a believer in metaphysical act or being or behaviors or spirits or whatever, you're better prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you don't know. The one thing I can't stand, and I had to do this last night, was I had an entity that hadn't known they died.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to cross this lady over. And it was just her and her son were killed by a band of very nasty, aggressive people, buried in a hole in the ground. And she was on a different level than her kid, but she needed to move on. And we did get her moved on, which was great. But to me, I'm more worried about the ones that don't know they're dead, because that's a shock. That is a shock. You literally have to perform a funeral or a eulogy. Hey, you led a great life. You did a lot of great things. Okay, yes, you have moved on. You're on a different plane now. You need to go ahead and move on to the light. Let me help you move on to the light. People have to realize and be told by people that they don't know that you're dead. That's a rough way to hear that one. But it happens. Like I said, it happened to me last night. So it is what it is.
So here's a little spin on things. So you're absolutely, I agree 100%. You know, you had to help guide this lady and go through. But what did that teach you? Unfortunately, this woman, unfortunately, this woman suffered, obviously, and on a timeless scale, because she's been passed for many, many years.
Over 200 years.
200 years, and our scale, we think that that poor woman's been suffering, right? So that's how we look at, that's how we perceive it. But if Richard hadn't gone through the learning lessons in his life, had been educated in the realms of the paranormal, had his spiritual growth and journey, he wouldn't be able to help her or anybody else. And what people don't realize is time is what we make on this earth plane. There's no such thing as time on the other side. So she isn't going, it's 201, 202, 203. She could be stuck in a 5-minute span of death. She could be stuck in that moment where it's that her conceived notion as to what is going on. And Richard is learning through this, right? And not only has he learned, but he's teaching others through the show about how it's working. And not only are you learning as the audience, but you're able to pass the information on and teach it to the other people. So do you see how it works as a collective? It changes and shifts the energy. So even though we think that poor woman is suffering, there's a whole learning lesson in a birth and a death.
Yeah, absolutely true. I appreciate your point on that, because, you know, you get people who go on investigations, they don't know how to handle something like that.
Right.
And then they realize when they're speaking to an entity and they go, oh my gosh, she has no idea she's dead. Mm-hmm. And you will get people look at each other and go, what do we do? You know, I mean, you have to do what you do. That person was alive and died right in front of you. You've got to help them move on to another plane. Mm-hmm. And that's part of, you know, not again to get off topic, but that's part of the responsibility we have as paranormal researchers, investigators, whatever you want to call us. You have a responsibility to the dead. Now, for example, when I do a reading for someone, I will thank them for allowing them to have me operate around or with their family or their loved ones. I thank them for that, because that's a privilege that we have as psychic mediums. We have that privilege. But when I deal with the departed in an investigation, I try to ask questions to try to see where they're at in their process, because death is a process. So I always try to figure out where they're at in their death. You know, are they aware they're dead? Well, okay, good. We can check that box and know they're dead. Do they understand the process? Do they know what they have to do next? Most likely they have no idea. And they're hovering and they're waiting and they're just kind of waiting for answers. You know, and it's just kind of one of those things where eventually if you're a Christian faith-based person, you're sitting there going to yourself, well, when Armageddon happens, every knee shall bow and God will decide who goes to heaven and the streets of gold and who goes to the lake of fire. Yeah, but Armageddon hasn't happened yet. So in the interim, these entities, these spirits, are staying here on Earth, because that's where we're until the second coming happens. You know, you want to get more questions about that, let me know. So, you know, we're here until the second coming happens, where he takes those who are asleep in Christ first, which is those who are dead believers, who have passed physically here on this plane of the earth, and he takes them. The hardest investigation I've ever done is a church. Because people who are congregants that congregate at the church sometimes don't have a clue what's going on.
No.
I have had to do multiple eulogies at a church before and during an investigation. Several of them had no idea. I had one gentleman who was walking around asking me where the baptistry was, because he wanted to be baptized. He died like 140 years ago. Okay. So, you know, that's just the kind of the thing. How prepared the entity is, how prepared the spirit is for the other side makes a big difference. It lessens the shock value, I believe, and it actually raises a lot easier way to be able to communicate with them if they're already aware. If that makes sense.
Yeah, agreed. I think that there's a common denominator. It doesn't matter what religion or what faith you have. They all believe in an afterlife. And it's how much you have grounded and tethered your spirit to this earth plane. So if you are Hindu and that's your belief system, then you're going to have a Hindu belief system death. If you're Christian, if you're Muslim, if you're, Native American, whatever it is, I feel like, if you're Scandinavian, you could have a Viking, you could go to Valhalla. I joked about that last weekend. Like, it depends on what your belief system is. The bottom line is letting go, accepting death. You're going to be witnessing it in that forefront. Okay. Let's face it, it doesn't matter if you're the best psychic in the world, the near-death experience, we all can preconceive and conceive things in a different manner. Every psychic is different, every person is different. I can't tell you without a shadow of a doubt in this life, at this moment, at this time, that this is what heaven or the other side is going to be like. I can just tell you from what I've been told from people from the other side.
Yep.
Everybody's perception is different. Okay, so when you in my experience, the people who are the most religious have the hardest time crossing over because they've been preached to for so many years how it's going to be like this. And when death occurs, it's confusing or it's scary or they're afraid of judgment. And I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but because they've tethered themselves to a specific belief system for so long, sometimes they have a hard time letting go. And I'm somebody I can say that I have a hard time letting certain things go. I hold on to sentiment for everything. Will I have a harder time crossing over? Maybe I will.
Well, you don't know. I mean, the thing of it is, I think, again, it has a lot to do with your comfort level with being on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
The eventuality that you're going to be on the other side is, again, I've had people come to me and go, well, do you think they're with God? The spirit has three parts, right? I think what we have to realize is if a person's comfortable in their process, if a person has their path, they know where they're going, and they're a lot better prepared. It's the ones that are the shock and awe value, the atheists, for example, the ones that have no idea, that don't believe in ghosts, and oh crap, now I am an entity. What do I do now? Oh, yeah, there's a wake-up zone for you right there.
Okay.
And it's just kind of, like I said, I got a list.
I got a 649 list, we call it here, because there's a lottery called the 649 list, and it's the first people I'm going to call if you win the lottery. And so I also have a death list of clicks at the funeral. Oh, I can't wait. Well, I can wait. I can wait for a long time.
Yeah, I can wait for a really long time. I had a really funny thing I read the other day that when I die, I want somebody to put a Jack in the Box on my coffin and play the music at the funeral. Crazy. Well, guys, we've come to about the end of our time. We're at 1:48 now. I'm going to do another shameless plug. So we only have a certain number of tickets left. There are not many. This event, July 16th at Fort Southwest Point in Kingston, Tennessee, $49.99. 6 hours of investigating 7 different buildings that we went to last night. And I will tell you, if you would like me to share with you some audio or whatever from that, or the pictures that were taken of the shadow apparitions looking in through the windows and all that kind of, I got them. Because it's going to be a good time come July 16th. Going to be a good time.
I'm envious. I'll get there one day.
Huh?
I said I'm envious. I'll get there one day.
One day. Guys, if you go to our page called The Haunted Travelers on Facebook, click on events, you'll see the event there, July 16th. Click it and get the last of the tickets, get it done with. I'd love to be able to say it's done. That would be wonderful. But it's going to be a good time. And we hope to see everyone that can be there, be there. But guys, we're going to call it a night. We appreciate each and every one of you coming out.
Thank you so much. I hope you learned. And if you have more questions, don't hesitate.
Don't. And we hope to see you guys next week. And we hope you all have a great week. We will talk to you soon, guys.
Bye, guys.